Welcome back, everybody. Back with another installment of our series, ranking the number one songs. This time it's 1971. Here with Randall Nelson. We've been doing this series since the 1965 year, working our way through to 1975. So we're sort of right in the middle here. Me and Randy were talking off camera. 1971 AM pop, full of hits, full of memorable songs when you were an adolescent or early teen. Remember these being on the radio. Didn't have to do much research. Fresh in our minds, even though they're 51 years old now. So this will be a fun one. There's 18 songs that we're going to rank here from worst to best. All 18 of these made number one on the Billboard charts in the US. So Randy, how's it going today?
Oh, well, like you said, AM radio, this reminds me of when, laying in bed with my transistor radio and the little earpiece because the station that I used to listen to back in the day in Kansas City would play the top 10 songs of the night every night. And so I would hear those before I went off to sleep. So they called it the platter pole.
Oh, cool.
So I remember these songs pretty well.
Yeah. Yeah, it'd be cool to see how, and we're going to go, I guess, in groups. Why don't we just go 18 to 16 for you, then me, then we'll do 15 to 11, and then we'll individually go around the horn for the top 10. That'll be the way we'll work it. And at the end, we have 5 honorable mentions that we will single out. They never made it to number one, but they're songs that we like or we thought maybe should have achieved the ultimate goal. They're great songs. So we'll get to that at the end of the show here. So what do you have for 18 through 16?
All right, my 18, which I think maybe you will have too, is Go Away Little Girl by Donny Osmond, written by the great Jerry Goffin and Carole King. This is probably one of their worst songs, I think, that they've written. But it was actually a number one hit in 1963 for Steve Lawrence, so it's like the second time it's been number one. I guess originally written for Bobby V. But it's kind of a song about a guy doesn't want this girl around because he can't control himself when he's around her. Go Away Little Girl. When Steve Lawrence sang it, it was a little bit creepy about Going Away Little Girl. But this, you got Donny Osmond singing it at 13. So you kind of wonder how young is this girl? If Donnie's 13, but it's not a great song by a great songwriting team. Kind of bland production and instrumentation. I didn't really like anything about this song. That's my 18. My 17, the Osmonds make it back. I'm picking One Bad Apple by the Osmonds. And I think the main thing I don't like about it's a blatant Jackson 5 ripoff.
Yeah.
Let's have, the family band and let's have a young kid singing the like Michael Jackson parts.
Yep.
And I guess, the 4 Osmonds, the brothers were in a barbershop quartet on the Andy Williams show before they got this idea of get their brother Donny in there and let's try to make, they recorded it at Muscle Shoals. So they were trying to make this like Motown hit. But the girls should give guys another shot because one bad apple don't spoil the whole bunch of girls. George Jackson, I guess, wrote that song and he was thinking about the Jackson 5 when he wrote it. But it's actually not bad musically, but it's just a blatant ripoff, so that's why I don't really care for it. That's my 17.
Okay.
My 16 is, and I kind of have a soft spot for this song, but it's pretty silly song, and that's Knock 3 Times by Tony Orlando and Don. It's a kind of a crazy song about this guy's in love with this girl that's down one floor below him in his apartment building. And he says he can feel her body swaying to the music. And I'm like, how do you do that? But he's got this crazy idea. He's going to put this note on a string, put it down by her window and hope she looks at it. And if she wants to go meet him in the hallway, to knock 3 times on the ceiling or hit twice on the pipe if the answer is no. And it's like, this is your great plan to meet this girl. I don't know, but Tony Orlando was like a record executive and a songwriter, and he was not the one that sang it on the original record, or when they originally did the recording, but then they didn't like how that turned out, so they brought him in, and he sang on it with, and they put it in Tony Orlando and Dawn, which actually the two girls in Dawn that sing it on the record are not the ones that ended up in the
Right.
group. Those were Toma Hopkins and Joyce Vincent Wilson. But it's kind of fun if silly, but you can hear the twice on the pipes sound, and
yeah.
the sounds for not three times, but that's my number 16.
Well, I'm going to keep mine brief because I have the exact three in the exact order. Number 18 is Go Away Little Girl. Just sugar pop schlock as far as I'm concerned. Even though Goffin and King wrote it, that doesn't cut it with me. It's a terrible song. I remember the Steve Lawrence version. Joe, you're right. It is creepier because he was an older man at the time that he recorded that. For this song to make it number one for 3 weeks in a row in 1971 is a disgrace, because it prevented other songs that are more worthy of achieving that accolade. My number 17 is One Bad Apple. Pretty much the same reasons you mentioned. A blatant ripoff of the Jackson 5, who would come out late 69 and 70. They were dominant. They had 4 number ones in 1970 alone. And it's the same formula pretty much, with the younger Donny as the lead singer, where you have Michael and the J5. They were wholesome and appealing. They appealed to middle America. Good looking kids, but just a horrendous song. This one was 5 weeks atop of the charts. One Bad Apple. And my number 16 is Knocked Three Times. It's cutesy, it's easy listening pop, inane lyrics. You mentioned about twice, or knock 3 times on the ceiling if you want me, twice on the pipes, and they go, and the answer is no. And something about the hallway. I didn't even write that down because it was so ridiculous, but that's it. I have the same 3 at the bottom that you do in the same order. So off to a flying start. Now we're 15 through 11.
My 15 is Want Ads by the Honeycomb. The Honeycomb were actually 3 backup singers. Shelley, but they had a kind of good resume. Shelley Clark, who was an ICAT with Ike Turner. You got Carolyn Willis, who had been singing with Lou Rawls, and Edna Wright, who was briefly a Raylette with Ray Charles. But they tried to produce this like a Motown single, and it's got a good hook.
Yeah.
And it's about a guy that's been cheating on them, a wanted young man, single and free, experience and love preferred, but will accept a young trainee. It's kind of fun. It's got some cool strings and drums, and it feels like I can hear the bongos kind of in the background. I don't know. I couldn't find out who was playing any of that, but that's my number 15. Want Ads. Cute song.
Yeah.
My 14 is Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves by Cher. Song about being born in a traveling show, which I guess kind of a gypsy caravan-like thing.
Mhm.
Where she meets a boy and he gets her pregnant. And it's kind of history repeating itself, because that's how what happened with her and her mother. And, it's got lines in there like, every night men come around and they lay their money down. And it's beautiful pop song about with this backstory that's kind of depressing. And he also said that Papa would have shot him if he knew what he'd done, getting her pregnant or whatever.
Yeah.
But you can kind of hear Phil Spector's wall of sound in there. They got some nice orchestration, but the subject matter is kind of different, and that's my 14. My 13 is Brand New Key by Melanie. It's kind of a strange song. You wonder, how did this song ever get to number 1? Well, part of it was I helped in that. I bought the single when I was a kid.
Nice label.
But Melanie is Melanie Safka, who was kind of known. She grew up in the folk scene. She was kind of known in the UK more than the US until she performed at Woodstock. I think she was the only female, that performed at Woodstock. But she keeps skating past his house, this guy that she's crazy about. And I guess at the time, a brand new key would be a key to tighten up your roller skates.
Right.
But some people thought maybe it meant something else. But it's kind of got a cool, different vibe. It's got this ragtime like piano, and she called it like a 30s song, which and then some people think that there's some suggestive lyrics in there, like "Don't go too fast, but I go pretty far."
Yeah.
Melanie said that it wasn't. She didn't think about sex when she wrote this song, but maybe subconsciously she wrote some lyrics. So
Right.
it's a fun song. My number 12 is "Joy to the World" by Three Dog Night. Hoyt Axton had wrote this song, who had written like "Snowblind Friend" and "The Pusher" for Steppenwolf. He also wrote another later song for Three Dog Night. I think it was later. "Never Been to Spain,"
Yeah.
which Three Dog Night did. And actually, this song was the biggest selling song of 1971. And something when I was looking this up, I didn't know this, but Hoyt Axton's mother co-wrote "Heartbreak Hotel."
No, I didn't know that either.
But and I guess he had written this song. He just had the chorus and he had the melody, but he didn't really have the verses down. So he just kind of made up these nonsense lyrics until he fully developed the song. But I guess Three Dog Night got a hold of it, and they recorded this song with these nonsense lyrics.
Yeah.
And Chuck Negron liked it, but the other two guys, Danny Hutton and Corey Wells, didn't really care for it. But Chuck Negron is the one that sings on the song. Jeremiah was a bullfrog, and everybody knows that. And it's kind of a joyous song. It's got a cool beginning, the keyboard riff, and Floyd Sneed, which I couldn't find the information on drums. But the Three Dog Night were just great at taking some up and coming songwriters' tunes and make them really pop friendly. And it's a fun song. So that's my number 12. And my number 11 is "How Can You Mend a Broken Heart" by the Bee Gees. I had it was like a K-Tel or something like that. It was a thing called Rockin' Easy, and I had a bunch of like soft rock songs. So when you only have a few records, you play the heck out of them. So I know this song backward and forward. Maybe it would have been higher if I wasn't so familiar with it. I don't know. But the Bee Gees had like 9 #1 singles in the 70s. This was their first #1 in the U.S. I kind of prefer their earlier tunes, but I like this song. Got a cool, lush string arrangement in it. And you got Marvin Gaye that play. I don't know. Some people don't like his voice, but I do. He kind of sings in that upper register. Kind of has that nasally, falsetto-like voice. And written by Barry and Robin, and I guess with contributions from Maurice, but he didn't get credit at the beginning, and I guess he sued or something and ended up getting credit. But it's a little like Burt Bacharach in there in this song, and I guess it was originally offered to Andy Williams, but he had another song he was doing at the time. It's pop, but it's got kind of an R&B vibe to it, and Al Green recorded his version of that. And it seems like a lot of soul artists saw potential in different Bee Gees songs and soul songs. One of my favorite soul songs of all time is James Carr's version of "To Love Somebody," a Bee Gees tune. But it's a great song. That's my number 11.
Yeah, that's really the only one that I have much higher. The other ones that you mentioned are all in this general area here. I think Robin Gibb was always holding his ear like this when he sang. I don't know whether that helped him or not, but I can think of younger days, that kind of stuff. But interesting voice. My number 15 is Gypsies, Tramps, and Thieves. You covered it well. The 16-year-old girl is growing up in the traveling show. Born, it says in the lyrics, it says born in the wagon of a traveling show. Kind of deep subject matter. You got racism, teenage pregnancy, prostitution, sort of this traveling caravan that she grew up in, a generational kind of thing. But it's okay. It's not a terrible song. It's just not one of my favorites for this year. Number 14 is One Ads. Definitely a cute song with the newspaper type thing, extra, extra, read all about it. One man's wanted, young man single and free. I like the lyrics there. They do a good job on it. R&B, soul, pop, Honeycomb. I don't think they had another major hit other than this. They probably had a couple that creeped in onto the charts, but this was the one that is their signature song. I liked it. I liked it back then. I haven't heard it in a long time, but I do enjoy it. Number 13 is the Indian Reservation by the Raiders. Mark Lindsay was the lead singer, formerly Paul Revere in the Raiders. They dropped the Paul Revere. Mark sort of fronting the Raiders here with Indian Reservation, the Lament of the Cherokee Tribe. Solid tune. Not much to say. I like the song, but I'm sure you'll get to it when it comes up. That's my number 13. My number 12, this may be a surprise for most folks that know I'm a singer-songwriter guy, but I put this at number 12, and that's James Taylor's You've Got a Friend. It's a cover of a Carole King song off her Tapestry album. James had the bigger hit with it, number one. Successful cover. You know, I like the reference to the changing of the seasons to winter, spring, summer, or fall. All you've got to do is call and I'll be there. It's a pleasant song, not one of my all-time favorite James's because he didn't write it. Carol did. So big hit, good song, number 12. And my number 11 is the one you mentioned, Joy to the World. 6 weeks at number one, the biggest song of the year. Three Dog Night, who were one of my favorite bands at that time when you're 13, 14 years old. That was the kind of music I was into then. Yeah, a lot of hits. And Jeremiah Was a Bullfrog, a good friend of mine. Always thought he drank some mighty fine wine, whatever they were talking about there. Kind of nonsensical, but a fun song, a sing-along song. And it was the biggest hit of Three Dog Night's career. And that's saying a lot because they had a ton of hits. So that wraps up my 15 through 11.
All right. Number 10, it's going to be Indian Reservation that you already mentioned by Paul Revere and the Raiders. Of course, Paul Revere was the keyboardist. Mark Lindsay was the lead singer. Written by John D. Loudermilk, who wrote Tobacco Road that Nashville Teens did, Ebony Eyes, the Everly Brothers did. He only had one top 40 hit himself. It's called Language of Love, which only got to 32 in 1961. But I guess they originally gave this song to Marvin Rainwater when it was entitled The Pale-Faced Indian. And then the British singer Don Farden changed it to Indian Reservation and took out some of the stereotypical content. And that's kind of the version that Paul Revere and the Raiders do. It's called Indian Reservation, and made it more about people, the U.S. taking people, Indians off their land and putting them in these reservations like in Oklahoma and that kind of stuff, the Cherokee people. And it's got cool organ at the beginning, but it's not actually Paul Revere, it's Artie Butler. And then the Wrecking Crew plays on it. Is that actually the only one from Paul Revere and the Raiders playing on this is Mark Lindsay doing the singing, which I've always liked his voice.
Yeah.
Paul Revere and the Raiders had the shtick of they dressed up in these colonial costumes, and they were more of a garage rock band, which I like a lot of their material. But I guess there was some strife going on with the group at this time, and so Mark Lindsay's the only one that's actually singing on this song. He's got some kind of nice snarly vocals in there. It's kind of strange feel. And it wasn't really written as a protest song, but kind of Mark Lindsay kind of sings it that way.
Yeah, I like the song too, and I do like Mark Lindsay's voice. He had a minor hit a couple years before this called Arizona, which I always liked. Mark Lindsay.
I could have brought that out too, because I
I
bought Arizona. I got the single for that too.
I have that as well, somewhere buried. But I always like that song. I know not a lot of people know of it today, but it was made for the age I was at the time. My number 10 is Brand New Key by Melanie. It's like you said, she was this hippie chick, Greenwich Village, had the big eyes, real cute, long hair, wrote her own songs, singer-songwriter. And there is some sexual innuendo in these lyrics, I mean, in my opinion. I'm just reading them here. It says, it's almost like you're avoiding me. I'm okay alone, but you've got something I need. I've got a brand new pair of roller skates. You got the brand new kit. You can read into that what you want. I think that we should get together and try them on to see. I've been looking around a while. You got something for me. Oh, I've got a brand new roller skate. You got a brand new kit. It's her voice. She's got this offbeat kind of, it's kind of almost a whiny kind of voice, but I like Melanie. She's cute to look at, and interesting song. And it was 3 weeks at #1, which nothing to sneeze at. Pretty big hit for that year. So that would be my number 10.
All right. My number 9, you already mentioned. That's You've Got a Friend, James Taylor. Like you said, it was on Carole King's Tapestry album. It's a nice song about empathy, about being there for someone else.
Yep.
And I guess King was opening for James Taylor, and she played it for him, and he wanted to record it, and she let him do it. And it was actually his only #1 song. And also Taylor played guitar on Carole King's version, and Joni Mitchell sang backup on both versions. But you got Danny Kochmer on the congas. It's a pretty song, and like I said, it's not his best, but and I kind of prefer Carole King's version of it.
I do too, because simply the fact that she wrote it, and it's probably more personal to her or whatever, and it works in the context of the album. My number 9 is Family Affair by Sly and the Family Stone. Their last top 10 hit, psychedelic soul, funk. We mentioned Sly and the Family Stone quite a few years in a row here, because they have one song that stands out for making #1 for the years we've been doing. Big string of hits. I like the song. It's got a kind of a, I don't know, I mean how to pronounce the description I'm looking for the music, but you feel like you're just like psychedelic kind of vibe. It's a family affair, and there's something going on in the background with the music that I can't even explain, but it's like a time warp kind of thing. You're but very strange for them. But 3 weeks at #1. Sly Stone. Yeah, it's a shame they couldn't have continued into the 70s, because the late 60s and 1970 and 71, they were still on fire. And then they sort of fell off the map for whatever reason. I don't know whether it's drugs, changing styles, or whatever happened. I thought they had enough in the tank to carry it on a little bit longer, but good song. Just not one of my all-time favorites for that year. Makes it at number 9.
Well, my number 8 is It's Too Late by Carole King. So even though she gave a #1 song away to James Taylor, she did have her own #1 song, which is nice.
Yeah.
Off the Tapestry album, which sold over 10 million albums, and it was on the charts forever. But just a wonderful album. It's kind of like Tin Pan Alley popping away. It's a song about a tough breakup, but she's never vindictive in the song. It's really kind of cool. It's like, there'll be good times again for you, for me, and for me. That's, I guess say this right. There'll be good times again for me and you, but we can't stay together. Don't you feel it too? Still, I'm glad for what we had and how I once loved you. So it's a nice, I guess, a nice breakup song. That's some really nice piano and good guitar. It has a nice guitar and sax break. And Carole sings the song with such earnestness, but also a little bit of matter of factness. Like I said, no, I guess a bit of remorse, but no vindictiveness. It's a nice song. It's my number 8.
Yeah, it's a great one. My number 8 is the theme from Shaft by Isaac Hayes, title track of the 1971 blaxploitation film that came out starring Richard Roundtree that same year, obviously. 2 weeks at #1. I like the song. I like the way it's laid out. The music, it feels like you're in the city. It's a happening. Talking about a cop vice squad, maybe prostitution, drug dealing, all kinds of stuff going on in the street. That's what the movie's about. And the vibe of that song comes through. It won the Oscar, I believe, for best original song that year as well. I don't have that written down, but that's what I'm remembering.
Yeah, it won both. It won one song and soundtrack.
And score, yeah.
Score, I mean.
Yeah. So yeah, it's a really cool song, and you know the lyrics are, you know, who is the man that would risk his neck for a brother man? Shaft, John Shaft, can you dig it? You know, all that kind of stuff. It was almost early rap before rap came out, the way he's firing off the lyrics, you know. I enjoy it. So that's my number 8.
Well, my number 7 is Family Affair by Sly and the Family Stone, which you mentioned, written and produced by Sly Stone. The nice female vocal you hear on here is actually his sister Rose, and it's just Sly and Rose. They're the only members of Sly and the Family Stone. They were going through some upheaval and at this time. The keyboards are played by Billy Preston, and then everything else is played by Sly Stone. But it's kind of sultry, slow-moving funk. Right. Around this time, I think drugs were kind of taking a toll on him. It's kind of weird because you got this bright vocal, but she only sings like 4 words on there. It's a family affair. But then he's got this, it's almost like he's drunk when he's singing. It's
That's what I'm looking for. Yeah, I couldn't get the words out.
He's got this kind of groggy vocals.
Yeah.
That's for some reason it works. And the only complaint I would have is that, you know, he was not a drummer, so they used a rhythm box that was programmed as the drums on here because Greg Errico had left the band and had quit. And the whole album was kind of in response to Marvin Gaye's album What's Going On, and then his title of his album was There's a Riot Going On.
That's right.
What's happening. It's kind of lost the feelings of it, like everyday people. It just has kind of a strange vibe, but I like it and how it works. I think it still works. It
does work. I'm glad you described it better than I could with the groggy kind of drunken thing, because that's exactly what I was trying to. I couldn't pull the words out. My number 7 is It's Too Late by Carole King, Grammy Award winner, Tapestry album, like you mentioned. It seemed like everybody at that time had that album. 5 weeks at number 1. I like the fact that she's being fair-minded about it. She's trying to, you know, it's a breakup, but I think she realized that both people are at the end of the rope and they're gonna have to part as friends. There's no real hate or animosity. It's like stayed in bed all morning just to pass the time. You're at that point where you know it's dead, so you might as well cut the cord and move on to a different relationship. So it's really a strong song. It's a great album. Made me a Carole King fan forever. So that's my number 7.
All right. My number 6 is, this is a song that I had up there quite a bit. And then I listened to it and I go, gosh, I really love this song. And that's the theme from Shaft, which I had at number 6 with Isaac Hayes. And so I listened to the song, but then when I pulled it up on YouTube, there's a live version of him doing it for like the 2002 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame ceremony, and he's out there. I mean, it sounds just like the recording too.
Yeah.
And I like how he's conducting and pointing to the flutes or pointing to the.
Oh, okay.
You know, he composed the music, and of course on the song, even though he plays piano and sax and other things, in the song he only does the little vocal and conducts everything. But it's just a cool, funky song that you almost feel cooler just by listening to it.
Yeah.
Hey, I could walk down the street like Richard Roundtree in the movie and whatever. But it's just so cool how it begins, because it's got the cymbals that they're playing, and then you got the piano chords and the wah-wah guitars. And then later on, you got these kind of suspicious like flutes and this punchy rhythm section. And then there's spoken interjections, you know, about a couple of minutes into the song, where he talks about Shaft. He's a sex machine to all the chicks. And you hear the backup singers going, Shaft. But
it is. It's well constructed.
Can you do, huh?
I'm sorry. It's well constructed the way It starts out musically and it builds to the point where the vocal comes in. You're right.
And I just like that. Da-na-na, da-na-na,
Yeah.
da-na-na. Then of course it says, "Can you dig it?" And I can't. Apparently.
Yeah, and it gives you a feel of the movie, and that's what a title track or a song's supposed to do. I mean, you don't even have to see the movie and have that experience just by that song. It's incredible. My number 6 is Uncle Albert Admiral Halsey, Paul and Linda McCartney from the Ram album, kind of 2 songs in one. The way they do it, Paul with his sort of throwback kind of style with butter wouldn't melt, so I put it in the pot. Come on, hands across the water, heads above the sky. That whole chorus there, it works. You don't even understand some of the time what the lyrics are all about, but that's Paul McCartney. He's such a melodic cat that he can put together a tune out of nothing, and this is one of them. I always liked the song from the first day I heard it, and I still do today. So Paul has the magic touch. What can I say?
Okay, that's my number 5. Uncle Albert, Admiral Halsey, Paul and Linda McCartney. Kind of different than anything else in his catalog.
Yep.
It's fun. It's not a little goofy. It does sound. Sounds like several songs put together to make almost like a medley.
Yep.
And sometimes it's a little jarring, but and he did have an Uncle Albert, and there was an Admiral Halsey who led the U.S. forces in the Pacific during World War II. And that hands across the water part does get stuck in your head.
It does.
And it's fun. It's a little disorienting, but it's a song that kind of works and then kind of doesn't. I don't know how to pronounce it. And he does a little military voice. It's almost like a Monty Python in the middle of it. But I always enjoyed it. So that's my number 5.
Yeah, I made it pretty high on both our lists. That's pretty good. My number 5 are the Temptations, Just My Imagination. Just a smooth, soulful ballad. Eddie Kendricks, this time lead vocal. His last song recorded with the Temptations before leaving for the solo career. So just a really vintage 70s Temptations as opposed to the 60s where it was more David Ruffin led band or group. But you can't help. This is like a real romantic kind of song, I think. I enjoy it. Number 5.
Well, that's my number 4, Just My Imagination, The Temptations, written by Norman Whitfield and Barrett Strong, who had been doing a lot of funkadelic, kind of psychedelic funk, kind of like Sly and the Family Stone. But the last song that they did, and I can't remember what the name of it was, it had a kind of weird title, only made it to 33, so they were ready to maybe go a little retro, and so they do this ballad with Eddie Kendricks, who was wanting to leave the band because he'd been kind of put in the background. When David Ruffin left, they just brought a new guy in, Dennis Edwards, and he became like the main focus of the group. But Eddie Kendricks had this great voice, and he does a wonderful job on this ballad, and it kind of sets the scene of, like he's just dreaming. He's thinking all this thing's you see all this stuff going to happen. He's meeting with her and everything, and then you find out he's just dreaming. Just my imagination ran away with me. And I love the line that Paul Williams gets to sing where he goes, "Every night on my knees I can pray." That's the only one. That's the only other person that kind of has a little lead part in it. Love the song.
Temptations were great. I mean, they had a way of blending those voices, and I like Dennis Edwards' voice too. I mean, fantastic. My number 4 is the one you had a little ways back. "How Can You Mend a Broken Heart" by the Bee Gees. This is like maybe 5 or 6 years prior to the disco phase of the Bee Gees, but they had the wonderful harmonies. The early Bee Gees and even the middle Bee Gees, and I like their stuff. I really do. I like their whole career. I think they're underrated as an overall, band or core or threesome, whatever. They've they survived the 60s, the early 70s with this kind of stuff. And then, of course, the mega juggernaut they became when disco hit with Saturday Night Fever and all that stuff. They tremendous career. 4 weeks at number one, written by Barry and Robin. I like Barry or Robin's voice too, where he's sort of trying to get himself in cue or whatever what he's doing with the vocals. Odd, strange voice, but it works, and his brother's chiming in as well. So they had magic too. So got to give them a lot of credit. And I like that documentary I saw last year about them, and a lot of heartache in that band too, with all the brothers, and Barry's the only one that's still surviving.
Right. So my number three is Brown Sugar, the Rolling Stones. Kind of a song that's, if you really look into the lyrics, you may think maybe I shouldn't be liking this song, because it does mention slavery and some of the references about being attracted to a black lady, and some of it not PC at all. And in fact, Mecca said they're not going to be singing it in concert anymore. But that really does rock. He has these great guitars in there, kind of boogie-like guitars, and it's got these surging sax and the maracas. The music in this song is just fantastic. Yeah. It's going to be my number three.
Yeah, looks like we have the same three. They're going to look like they're going to be maybe in a little different order here. My number three is Me and Bobby McGee by Janis Joplin, written by Chris Christopherson, off the Pearl album by Janis, released 3 months after she died. Just a passionate vocal signature song. Again, this is what she's probably most noted for, in my opinion. Just a great song. I love the lyrics of the song all the way through, and she really brings it home here. I can't see anybody else doing the song better than her, even the author of it, Chris. Yeah, he's not known for his singing anyway, but Janis Joplin really hits a home run with this song, and that's my number three.
That's my number two. Like you said, it was after she passed away. The second posthumous number one after Otis Redding had sitting at the dock of the bay was the other one. Kind of links romantic and personal freedom. Freedom is just another word for nothing left to lose. Janis sings it like it's kind of like a blues rock ballad, but she's really kind of soft in there, and then she's does some scorching singing here and there. Just I love how she sings this song. Bobby was a guy that couldn't be tied down. He's kind of a nomad. In ways, a lot like Janis in some ways. But then in the song, she's willing to sacrifice her affection for him for his freedom. There's a casualness, but a deep soulfulness to her singing, and probably always been my favorite song by her.
Yeah. My number two is Brown Sugar, Rolling Stones, off the Sticky Fingers album. Just as a flat out great rock song. I know it's not politically correct. I have that written down, but we're judging these in the context of 1971, and it was one of the best songs that year for sure. You got that double guitar duo here, Mick Taylor and Keith Richards coming at you. Like all the subject matter you mentioned with the slavery and all that stuff, but I dare anybody to put this on with headphones and not rock out to it. It's a great song. It's one of my favorite Stones tunes to this day. So, no doubt that was going to place high on my list. Could have been number one, but I went in a different direction. Looks like we both went in the same direction with our number one.
Yeah, number one. So Maggie May, Rod Stewart, about a guy that falls for an older woman in college, and then even though the effort kind of breaks up or whatever, he's still wanting to go back to her, even though he knows it's not a good thing. Because he's got these, I love the lyrics in this one. It's like, yeah. I suppose I should collect my books and get on back to school, or steal my daddy's pew and make a living out of playing pool, or find myself a rock and roll band that needs a helping hand. Oh, Maggie, I wish I'd never seen your face. Mm-hmm. I love Rod singing. He's got like the perfect rock and roll voice. And, you know, before he started doing all the standards and all the other stuff, he was a great rock singer. And one thing I love about the the whole album, which is on the album Every Picture Tells a Story, is the drumming by a guy named Mickey Waller. And in fact, Rolling Stone, I found this on here. Rolling Stone music critic Greil Marcus said he should get the Nobel Prize in physics for his drumming. It's pretty amazing.
Wow.
But and I love a guy I didn't really know, Martin Quintana plays the guitar on here, but he also plays the mandolin, and I love the mandolin part that's on this song. That's one of my favorite Rod Stewart songs.
Me too. Yeah, the mandolin really adds a lot to this song. It really does, and I had to make note of that. So to me, it's the best song of 1971. Not just the number ones, but probably all the songs released that year. Vintage Rod Stewart. He never sounded better on the album as well as this particular song. And it still holds up. You hear it on the radio, it's a great song. I mean, it still is. You mentioned a younger guy, maybe 16, 17, with an older woman. They don't give an age, but the morning sun, when it's in your face, really shows your age. I mean, that is illustrated early in the song, so you know where it's going. Fantastic song. Definitely up there among my Rod Stewart favorite songs, probably number one. So very good. We hit on that one. And let's do the honorable mentions.
Yeah.
What do you have as your 5 singled out songs that never made it to number one that you still want to throw a shout out to?
Well, I've got off one of my favorite albums of all time, Who's Next, came out this year. So I'm going Won't Get Fooled Again by The Who, which only made it to number 15. I could have used Bob O'Reilly, but it wasn't released until 72 as a single. Then I don't think it even made the top 100. But Won't Get Fooled Again, great rock tune. Second one I've got written is Imagine by John Lennon. Only made it to number 3. Just a beautiful song. And another song that only made it to number 2 was What's Going On, Marvin Gaye. Just, classic song by him. And I picked something that would made the top 100, but not the top 40, because I had to put this song in. And Tupelo Honey by Van Morrison only made it to number 47. I go, what the heck's happening? And the Osmonds can have a big hit, and
not right.
Dan only Tupelo Honey, which is such a beautiful song, only gets to 47. But and then the last one I wrote down is Wild Horses, the ballad by the Rolling Stones, and only made it to 28.
Well, kudos to you for finding Tupelo Honey, because I was looking at top 20 songs. I should have went further because I would have picked that. It's probably my second favorite Van Morrison song of all time. So that's a good one. I have 2 of the same that you have. I have What's Going On, Marvin Gaye at number 2. Imagine, John Lennon, made it to number 3. Those were automatics for me. And the other 3 that I picked, I've got If You Could Read My Mind by Gordon Lightfoot. It made it number 5. Always loved the song. Your Song, Elton John, made it to number 8. Another classic. And the one I put as my 5th entry here was Riders on the Storm by The Doors, number 14. So those are the 5 that I can't believe none of them were number 1. And Donny Osmond's riding the top of the charts for 5 weeks and this and that. I mean, come on. How's that fair? It just shows the public. Well, a lot of teens were buying 45s in those days too, and requesting songs on the radio, and that all plays into what goes on the charts. So it was different, and people, especially in their 20s, college kids, were starting to branch over to the FM side of the dial too. So you still had the kids on one end, and the young adults on one, and then the old time conservative people were listening to Sinatra and whoever else was still around at the time.
And singles became a little less important to some of the, people were buying albums.
Yeah, big time.
The Who was selling albums, but they weren't making the tops of the charts.
No, and a lot of bands that were very successful selling albums never released singles at all, like Led Zeppelin. They could have put out singles. They didn't do it. The Who, all the big rock bands were notorious for that. They just let the album speak for themselves, and that's where the progressive rock came in at that point too, and there was a lot of stuff going on. Music was really changing from what it was in the 60s. Anyway, great episode. Really enjoyed 1971. Thanks to Randall Nelson. Check his channel out, please. Got a great collection. I say this every week, but it's phenomenal. He did a thing on soundtracks the other day. Go over and check that out. I never saw so many cool soundtracks in my life. I told him so in the comments. He has all these Bond films and some obscure films that are sort of long forgotten, but Randy has the soundtracks, and the covers are really cool on them too. I like to see the artwork on some of them things too. So check out Randy's channel. We'll be back next week with 1972. Appreciate everybody watching. Like, subscribe to both of us. Leave some comments, and we'll be sure to respond. So for Randy, this is Rich. We'll see you next time. Take care, everybody. Bye.